Our next guest has been involved in the fight for racial and social justice for more than 25 years. Van Jones, a name everybody knows, is the CEO of the Reform Alliance, an initiative founded to transform our criminal justice system. He's also an author, a media personality, political commentator, social entrepreneur. Van, great to see you again. So much to unpack and talk about, but if I was gonna add another label, I'd call you Mr. Odd Bedfellows, right? So you have this kind of unique way of bringing people who would never normally overlap and getting them, I think one of the things we're trying to talk about, how do you get empathy established? How do you get people to walk in each other's shoes? And I'd love to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about how you see the building of empathy, which hopefully leads to trust and understanding. But, I mean, you actualize it, and I want our people to understand how you do this.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm standing on the shoulders of a lot of people who've been doing it for generations. And it used to be more normal for us to say, just because I don't agree with you on everything doesn't mean I can't work with you on anything. And so I've been blessed to work on criminal justice reform. My constituency, people see me on TV, they think I'm a TV guy. That's a very small part of any day for me. Most of what I'm doing is working with the Reform Alliance, working with Dream Court Justice, working with the Ella Baker Center, working with criminal justice organizations I've founded over the years to get people out of prison. My constituency can't vote. They're locked up. My constituency can't march. They're locked up. They can't tweet. So I've got to go out. I can't multiply enemies for them. I can't be Mr. Cancel Culture and tell everybody, if you aren't, where I want you to be, I got no use for you. I've got to multiply friends for my constituency. I've got to multiply friends. I've never met anybody in prison who said, get me out of here. I can't take it anymore. I want to go home. But whatever you do, don't talk to a Republican. They've never said that. They say, get me out of here. And so being grounded through Dream Court Justice and the Reform Alliance and real folks who are struggling has been very helpful. But the other thing, too, is that it turns out that on both sides of the political divide, there are compelling reasons for us to do something to reduce the number of people who are needlessly behind bars. The Republican Party at its best, I'm a strong Democrat, but the Republican Party at its best is a party that's based on liberty, limited government, individual rights and dignity. Well, the criminal justice system defies those principles every day. You have a big failed government bureaucracy that gets bigger every day and does a horrible job gobbling up money and liberty and rights. So the conservatives at their best have a reason to be at the table. And certainly Democrats, with our concern for racial and social justice, have a reason to be there as well. But you think about that. Liberty on the right, justice on the left. Liberty and justice for all. That's the basis for us to work together. Now, we can fight about everything else. There's no rule that says if I work with you on something on Monday, I can't also work against you just as hard on Tuesday and then work with you again on Wednesday. That's new in American politics. If I don't agree with you on everything, I can't work with you on anything. The people who suffer under that logic are the people at the bottom. Rich people are going to be fine. They'll go to Mars if they have to. But poor people from Appalachia to the hood, folks on Native American reservations, people in prison, people who don't have much, they get left out when we won't cooperate even to help the least of these.
I began digging into this probably, way back. The Obama administration interviewed Valerie Jarrett, who at that time was very openly working with the Koch Foundation. They didn't succeed in the criminal justice reform. We get to the Trump administration, and you're able to work and find pathways to work with the Trump administration. My question to you is, a lot of people critique the achievements that you got on first steps of criminal justice reform as not being nearly enough. What do you need to see from the Biden administration, and who are the odd bedfellows that you think need to line up to kind of move that a few notches forward?
Well, listen, I agree. The First Step Act was called the First Step Act. Right? It's supposed to be the first step. If that had been the last step, it'd have been a failure. But it was the first step. It kept us in conversation. Obama did a lot he did not get credit for. He did get fair sentencing done on crack, powder, cocaine. His Department of Justice did a great job, but he did not get that big bill done. We were able, surprisingly, to get a big chunk of that big bill done under Trump, which means now you've had two presidents in a row that have done something positive on the issue, whatever critiques you may have on what they didn't do. Now I think we've got to move forward to second, third, fourth steps. Number one, that crack cocaine, powder cocaine disparity needs to be completely erased and erased retroactively. I think Durbin and Cory Booker are working on that. We need reform of supervision. Probation and parole systems are completely dysfunctional. People go back to prison for no reason at all, haven't even broken a law, but they violated some little tiny technicality. They go back to prison. The Reform Alliance will have a bill on that going forward this year. We need to expunge people's marijuana charges. All of these things. But the great thing about it is there is interest on both sides to do some of this or all of it. I think Biden can do a good job. And I want to shout out dayofempathy.org. Next Tuesday, March 2nd, a bunch of organizations, including Dream Court Justice, are having events in 40 states to bring people together on a bipartisan basis to do something about the criminal justice system. It used to be a bipartisan issue the other way, build more prisons. We finally have a chance to make it be a bipartisan direction the other way, bring people home from prison, reduce the prison population, respect liberty, dignity, rights, and justice, and do it on a bipartisan basis. And I'm going to keep doing it. We can fight on everything else, but for people who cannot vote and have no rights at all, we've got to come together.
Please give the website one more time, Van.
Dayofempathy.org. March 2nd, Tuesday, dayofempathy.org. For people across the country standing up together.
Next week, next Tuesday, you have Rick Santorum joining you?
I hope so. He's actually been helpful on some of this stuff. Believe it or not.
That's good. So let me ask you another question. One of the other things I've gotten into is, when everything you're saying resonates, and I know people who have been in prison and look, their FICO scores are screwed. Their ability, they've got records. When you kind of look at this in a way that this was systemic racism transferred in another way, you have people with ongoing liabilities in their lives that continue to drag them down. So I've been interested in, the algorithms. I mean, it's an algorithm issue. If you're on LinkedIn and you're out there looking for jobs, or, you have people checking out your backgrounds, this is all coming out. So there's some companies like Checker and others that are saying, we need to give people another chance. And it's not something that's often come up in these discussions, but how much are you beginning to talk to those big holders of data, algorithms, and the way they judge and sort us all out, and whether or not they're going to basically be able to begin to expunge, as you said, some of this stuff that isn't getting people back to get another chance, a second chance?
It's a really great idea, and I have to admit, you're educating me. I haven't thought about that. We haven't focused on that. We've been focused more on Washington, D.C. Maybe we should be focusing on Silicon Valley and getting some justice there. So listen, the great thing about a conversation like this is, you start generating ideas, you start generating opportunities. I think people have the wrong ideas. People, I think, in America think that the country's in trouble because we have too many awful people in the other party, too many awful Democrats who are all socialists, or, too many awful Republicans who are all cult members. Look, there's some awful people everywhere. The biggest problem we have is we have so many awesome people in both parties, all races, all faiths, all genders, all sexualities, so many awesome people who just don't know how to work together, who we don't know what to do. But when you start putting the awesome people together, great ideas like that come up and you can get stuff done. And it starts to feel good. I'm high off of getting stuff done with these unlikely bedfellows because I see people coming home from prison, hugging their children, hugging their grandmas, and getting a second chance. Let's keep working on that. And who knows, maybe we can work together on addiction, on mental health, on childhood poverty. There are common ground issues. On the battleground issues, we have to fight. That's a given. But on those common ground issues, we can't only fight and still have a country. Let's find some things we can do together to help people who don't have anything.
Van Jones, I always love talking to you, always love hearing you. Really grateful for your leadership. CNN host, founder of Dream Corp. Say that website one more. I want people to kind of hear it.
Dayofempathy.org. And also reformalliance.com is another place you can go. If you believe
Tuesday,
in
March
people
2nd.
coming together, reformalliance.com, dayofempathy.org. If you believe in people coming together, putting differences to one side to help somebody, come help us.
Well, Tuesday, March 2nd. Van Jones, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.